everyone. It's Kristin Anderson. Thank you for being here and joining us for our second episode in the Steno Matters podcast series. With me today, I have Sue Terry, past president of NCRA and the current chair of the Strong Committee. Also, we have Debbie Dibble, past president of NCRA, and she's also a member of the Strong Committee and many other committees that I'm not remembering right now. So thank you, Debbie. And then also we have with us another strong member, Stacey Raikes from Florida, who is also the current 8th fastest court reporter in the nation. So I am joined with a lot of distinguished people within the stenographic profession today. And these fine ladies joined myself back in September to attend the Court Technology Conference that was held in Arizona. So we wanted to discuss today a little bit about our takeaways from the CTC conference, and then what Strong has been working on, and then a little bit of what our vision, concerns, and ideas are for the future for our great profession of stenography. So with that, ladies, let's get started. And first, my first question is going to be, I'm going to turn it over to Debbie first, as Debbie really stepped up and assisted getting this our program together to go to CTC with staff. And so I'd like to turn it over to Debbie and ask her about her takeaways and the whole experience with getting the booth. And take it away, Debbie. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for the invitation to us to be here with you this morning. The CTC conference was absolutely an event that exceeded my every expectation. And between Sue and I have been in attendance at every CTC conference for the past decade. And so we have a great deal of experience of the past conferences and what has been expected there. And like I said, this was hands down the most valuable opportunity that we have had as NCRA to be there. And so I really did want to thank NCRA. They stepped up to help us procure having a booth where we could get the best traffic and the most exposure possible. And these conventions are pricey and really out of the realms of possibilities for many of our local and state associations to attend. So NCRA made that possible so that we could be there, and not just in attendance, but where we would be on the floor and get all of these attendees coming to us to hear our message. Now, back to the beginning of this particular CTC and why it was so valuable. We just right from the get-go, the very first the keynote speaker got up and made our case for us. She spent about 40 minutes talking about everything that we have been discussing for a very long time of the risks and the discriminations and all of the issues that we have been seeing as we protect the record. But very interesting to me, all of the risks that they talked about were documents being filed and the overall procedure. They didn't talk about the record and the absolute imperative importance it was for the record to be protected. And so that was why it was so critical for us to be there to make sure that that piece got added to their concerns. One of the things that the keynote speaker discussed, and we might talk about her a bunch because she was so effective for us. There was a lot of high-fiving going on in the audience every time she made a point for us. She talked about something called an innovation cascade, and she talked about how there's an innovation or idea. Then there's user adoption. Then there's society alarm as society starts to see some of the risks and problems that are being developed and created by this new technology. And then step number 4 is when the laws come into place. And she said, we are vibrating madly between user adoption and society alarm. And so that's when the group of us in that audience were saying, this is the critical time for us to be involved, because the next step is the legislative laws that are going to control this element. So our being there, we had the greatest banner. The banner that the group came up with said, "Do you trust AI beyond a reasonable doubt?" And then in italicized underneath it, it said, "The truth behind the algorithm." Just a really smart thing. And a lot of people would come to our booth and say, "I am intrigued." We would say, "Let us explain." So we got a lot of very, very critical exposure during the Court Technology Convention. And again, so grateful that NCRA sent us there. Stacey, you want to add a little? I don't mean to take all the time.
No, Debs, yes, exactly. I agree with everything you said. I'll just compound the fact that being in that exhibit hall really made a difference. It really, having the booth made every connection matter. We interacted with so many people. It was almost people overload for me. I mean, by the end of the day, I was exhausted. There was a ton of people. But one of the biggest takeaways that I felt as far as being in the exhibit hall was there was one judge that came up to our booth and said, "I just love court reporters. I love court reporters." You know, the overall theme was everybody was so thrilled that we were there. "Oh, the court reporters. Oh, oh, you guys still do that?" "Yeah, we do." And this is why it's important that we still do it. And so just having those one-on-one conversations, we just brought the energy, we brought a lot of different points of view, and we had a lot of interesting conversations, and that really, really made a difference to me. Another thing so the keynote speaker, this lady we keep referring to, her name was Dr. Moira Gunn. And Dr. Gunn, you know, although we recognize that AI is here, and she talked about these great technological advances that we're going through as a society, as all of us are going through this together, she wanted us to remember that technology is a two-edged sword, and we do have to remember that. With the good also comes the bad, also comes the threats, and also comes the dangers. And I don't think there's any one of us on the Strong Committee that don't acknowledge the presence of AI and don't say, "It's here. We know it's here. But this is why we can do it better. This is why it's important that you keep a human in the chair." That, as Dr. Gunn said, you put some friction in the system. The system is going to keep going, but who's going to check the system? We are the friction. We are the ones that can stop and ask for clarification. We are the gold standard. So it was a thrill and a joy to be there and interact with all those people. Like I said, it was a little people overloaded by the end of the day. But having that booth was truly invaluable, really, really worth every penny. Where we were positioned, we were kind of on a corner, whereas you had to bend the corner. There you saw our banner. There we were. There was no avoiding us, even though some people did turn on a dime. There was no avoiding us. You had to stop by and see the court reporters, see what we were talking about, and have a discussion with us and stop and get some candy. So the people connection was where it was at for me. But we can continue on that conversation, and I'll have a little anecdotal story to tell later. But I don't know if Sue, you wanted to add anything about the exhibit hall. We walked the entire exhibit hall, Sue and I. We stopped at each and every booth to see what was going on. There's a lot of people hanging a shingle with a transcription solution out there. But you know, we still remain confident and we know who we are. So I don't know, Sue, if you want to take it away.
Well, you just got my one point I was going to start with, but I'll add a little bit to it. We decided that we were very strategic about how we were going to man things. And I will say, as Deb said, we've been to many years of attending court technology as a vendor and for NCRA many years ago. And this one was very different in that we just by luck picked the best topic we could have picked for what was being presented there. So it made our booth very busy. There were 4 of us. We decided that 2 would man the booth and 2 would be in the sessions because we wanted to hear what they were saying, what they were telling everyone. It worked out pretty well, except that our booth was so busy that there were times all 4 of us were in the booth and people were standing 4 or 5 deep and couldn't get near our table. We were truly busy. It's probably, well, there's no probably, it was the most traffic I've ever seen at one of these. So they're looking at us. I'm very glad we were there. As far as the sessions, Stacey and I were in a session, and I know Debbie talked very early this morning about the high-fiving going on. Stacey and I were high-fiving a lot because as many of the topics were raised, we had been on these topics 2 years ago. So we seemed to be that our points were being reiterated by the presenter who had far more qualifications than us to present. So we were feeling very good about being on the right track for NCRA and our membership. However, during one of the questions that the presenter asked, she asked a question about how they felt about privacy, how they were handling it in their courts. And there was, Stacey can comment on this, there was palpable silence, which said to me, we have also been on the right track because we've been pushing the privacy aspect and that as reporters, we've got to start protecting privacy in every aspect. So we felt very good about that. I think that's probably most of what I'd like to add.
Great. Thank you, Sue. And everybody's touched on it a little bit, and I have to tell you that it was imperative when I was selecting the team to go to CTC conference that I'd reached out to both Sue and Debbie because of their experience and having been there, and it wasn't knowing what to expect, so we wouldn't be scrambling about our approach. And I really, my kudos are to Debbie. She really took the initiative and was able to get our banner, and as she mentioned, our hashtag and everything that we had, and our QR code that she'll talk about. Everything was so perfectly, those stars aligned for us to have everything we needed for everybody that was really seeking us out. And the most important thing I would tell you is our presence was noted, but what would have been even equally as awful is they would have noticed our presence not being there. So us not being there would have had a huge impact. And they're like, oh, they are. As I think it was Stacey mentioned, I love court reporter. I love my court reporter. They do. And we had to discuss a narrative of, there's a lot of discussion about, oh, there's a court reporter shortage. And people like to say there's a shortage. And there's a lot of things we can talk about down that line, but sometimes the shortage is relative on your location. And it also has to do with rates that are paid. And sometimes I look at it as the field of dreams. If you will build it, they will come. And I live in the great state of Texas. So I'm telling you, there are ways to get people to come. So I am from Illinois through Kansas, and will finish out my profession in the great state of Texas. However, I just share those things that when people say those words, you need to be able to have discussions of what other things they've considered, and is it really worth risking not only not having a court reporter, but it's securing the public. It's the right to the public to have access to a record that is going to hold the test of time from the day they are in state level court all the way up to appellate and Supreme Court level. People rely on our transcripts, and we are guardians of the record. And as most of us stenographers know, that is not a job we take lightly. So I would like to turn it back over to Debbie.
Kristin?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
We do that. There was maybe 1.5 topics based on what Stacey had said that I forgot to hit. And it'll be very quick. When we were walking around the exhibit hall and looking at all the vendors, and we stopped at all the booths that were offering, quote, transcription and AI. And what was very interesting to note is they would show a very slick demo, and we would say, oh, can we do that live? And we got the same answer over and over. Oh, well, yeah, sure. Let me get my microphone. Oh, where's my microphone? Oh, let me look in this bag. Let me look in that bag. Oh, darn, we don't have a microphone. So that was very telling to us in that, many of these companies can do very slick canned demos. But when you want to walk up to a booth and ask them to, okay, let's make this live. We've got, about the noise we'd have in a courtroom around here. Let's do it. Let's see how it does. Nobody seems to have a microphone available at an event they're paying significant dollars.
I wanted to say, let me get my machine out. Let's see who can do what. But I didn't.
How fast do you want to go?
Right. How fast do you want to go? No, I didn't.
and then the half point that I was going to make was when Debbie discussed, yes, it was very pricey for NCRA to have a booth there. But state associations will probably be precluded from attending the big national show. But I've also been for many years to our state associations court technology show. So if your state association has one, then try to be there. The more we're there, and I will relate that I a couple of years ago was in a state court technology conference in which a large vendor of court reporting equipment was there. And I definitely positioned myself in the front row to ask questions during that. And it makes a difference. If we weren't there, nobody points out anything. And this is why this technology gets in the door ahead of us when we're actually definitely ahead of the curve on technology. So thank you.
That is a perfect segue, Sue, to bring that back around to our viewers and put some responsibility and some ask for them to help us get this message out farther and more locally. So the last piece that I will discuss is, first of all, yes, I agree, Kristin, that institutional knowledge really helped us hit the ground running. We lost no time getting up to speed on this because we knew what was going to be effective and we got there. So one thing we did is because we needed to have things to hand out in the booth. So we took some paper copies of things to share with the attendees that came to our booth. We had things to discuss the ASR. We had some documentation on age discrimination and racial discrimination and gender discrimination. We also had a couple of papers to discuss failures in the courtroom when the records are not adequate. We have a new resource called Judy Records, and the strong team went through and we did some funneling to get the most appropriate elements to what we were sharing. We got 13,000 hits on cases that had been remanded or returned because of an inadequate record. So we did that very concisely and we took that, and we had some great tag phrases. Sue made this really great trifold for us. Oh, it's backwards, sorry. It says safeguarding justice.
No, I see it. I saw it.
Was it? Okay, maybe it's just for me that it's backwards. All right. And then I think that one of the most brilliant ideas we had was Kristin's idea. We took pass out cards and we called it Jeopardizing Justice. And we had NCRA created this QR code for us. And I'm going to make this so that you all can hopefully grab it from the screen if I hold it up close enough. So we created this QR code, and tell me if you can get it, Stacey.
A little closer, Debbie. I can tell you exactly when.
There we go. I was going to say, I got to wait till it comes into focus. So to continue my piece while you all get a snapshot of this QR code, in this QR code is all of those papers that I just showed you
I'm not
that we shared at CTC.
A little closer, Deb.
Okay. It's hard to talk and hold still.
I don't know why I got it the last time.
I got it.
Okay.
I got it.
Everybody wanted to work through that with us.
Hopefully everybody can pause the podcast till they get that. So on that, in that QR code, that is a repository there. Stacey's showing you of all of these documents that we had, and we are updating them as a strong team. So if you have an opportunity to share these documents with people, decision makers in your world, they are exceptional documents. They are very succinct, to the point, bullet pointed list of important elements that we really need to get shared to those people that are making these decisions that couldn't be at CTC. They need to have this information. So please share these documents. If you would like, I can send you some of these pass out cards if you have an opportunity to go to your local CTC as Sue just recommended. Let us know and we can get you the resources that you need to help us get this message out. Thank you.
And Debbie, I would just add to that not only could they take this information and the documents to their CTC state, it could also be a great lunch and learn in a law firm. The information applies as much to the freelance sector as it does to the court sector. So I would encourage, that's what we need to do, is get that message out.
And we'll take it one person or 100 people. Everybody needs our message. Thank you, Madam President, for inviting us.
Yes,
here.
of course. Well, let me wrap up just this last part with saying two little things. First of all, my takeaway was one of the last sessions, last morning of CTC conference, where they displayed the ability of the record to be captured by AI instantaneously, and the transcript was showing up. And as you mentioned about going around with the booths and looking for microphones, everybody keep in mind, it's like this is the topic saying, yes, I drove down the street to the grocery store.
Exactly.
That is correct. Not
exactly.
He was attacking me with a knife.
Yes, what did you say? I didn't know what you said. Can you say that again? Yeah, well, yeah.
How many, or if you were even recording it, okay, one moment, please. The AI didn't understand what you said. Can you imagine going through an emotional crime against a person, and you're trying to dictate it into this system, and you have to keep repeating it over and over, or a small child testifying to being a victim of a crime? I mean, nobody understands we are meeting people in the most emotional events of their life, whether it's crimes against person, a divorce, a custody battle, on child custody. There's so many things that happen that we are not meeting people when they want to be unemotional, and they can totally pick it up. So when I thought, oh my gosh, it's just is so lost in the world of people that maybe think they have the answers, don't actually work in the real world of court reporting.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree. If I can just add on
Yes.
that really quick, Kristin, I just believe that it's most important that we remember to keep the humanity in court reporting, remember who we are, to stay confident, to really, keep that human element in court reporting. And I think that's important, and that's where our gift lies. And just like you said, being empathetic, even without saying a word, not interrupting that person while they're crying, or while they're giving their victim impact statement, or while they're going through their divorce. And that's what we're good at. That's what we do. And I think it's really important. And now more than ever, to remember to keep the humanity in court reporting.
Yes.
So thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yes. And
Kristin,
yes.
Could I have one more minute to highlight something that I know that you don't know we're going to do, but I'd like to do.
Okay. I think okay.
I just like to, since this was kind of focused on CTC and Strong, I'd like to just kind of reiterate a little bit of some of the activities that we've done just this year. But I want to say first that Kristin's support of Strong has been amazing. And I know our whole Strong team really appreciates that, and the support of the board. Without that support, we couldn't do many of the things that we're able to do. The board has helped us hire 2 experts that have helped us and guided us and affirmed for us that we're on the right track with things. That's been very important. That's something that without our national association, we could not be doing. So I want to thank them for that, for our membership. And one is a CLE letter that recently went out under Kristin's signature regarding some CLE, continuing legal education seminars that we've seen throughout the nation, where attorneys are being encouraged to use AI to make the record. And we responded with a great letter on that. We've had 2 paralegal associations that we've presented to who had questions about AI and digital's making the record. We presented a 1-hour seminar for 2 paralegal associations. We also assisted another scheduler in a reporting firm who wanted to do a seminar for attorneys about why it's most preferable to use a stenographer and not a digital, and what some of the dangers are. We assisted her in making her presentation. We've done Bar Association seminars. We've helped the states of Indiana, Illinois, Nebraska, Tennessee, Utah, and Colorado by giving advice, letters, support, and doing seminars for them on these issues. We regularly will work with you, whether it's one person. In the one case I mentioned of the scheduler, it was one person, and we dedicated a lot of time to that. And we will do that for any of you. If you want to make a presentation, we're here to support you. We can do it via Zoom. It's not a cost, it's just a cost of time, and we need all your time. But anyway, I wanted to thank Kristin for her support, the board for their support, because we couldn't do all what we feel like is the great work we do without your support. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Here, here.
And our wonderful staff. Thank you, Colin.
Yay.
Well, and I have to give kudos to Dave. He was a huge help in crafting our letter response regarding the CLEs out in the industry regarding AI. So
I think we have to also thank Dave for being the one to choose our great spot at CTC. My understanding was he chose the spot, and it was absolutely the perfect spot in that entire
Hey, and we were right by the bar for the opening reception too. So everybody had to line up by us by the bar.
The line was right in front of our booth.
Yeah.
Don't get better than that.
Yeah. Dave knows where the bar is at the exhibit hall. Yay.
Extra special powers right there.
Right.
Well, and I do want to thank you for being there. It is an investment for NCRA to have been at CTC conference, and these individuals here that have joined me today traveled there at their own cost and paid for their own meals. So they had a huge investment personally in time away from their families and their work to advocate on behalf of stenography for our membership. And so I thank you all. And I highlighted Debbie and Sue's past experience, but nobody is more social than Miss Stacey Raikes. So she was, people gravitate to her and her expertise. So she did a wonderful job as well. So
I was a novice, but I was honored, and it was a great time. I think we really put in a lot of work. It was well worth it. It was a passion project. So I appreciate you having me there.
Yes, thank you. So kind of moving back into we kind of covered things that Strong has been working on. So that's been great. And kind of don't want to keep everybody's time because it's always fascinating and we can go on for hours and hours. And we'll move into our next segment here in a moment. Okay, and now I'm going to turn it back over to Stacey to share some personal insights. Stacey?
Can I just have just a little story time with Stacey? I just wanted to tell this anecdote really quickly. So we all know that AI is all over the headlines. It's everywhere. Everything is being automated. But I think I was in the local airport actually on my way to go to the CTC conference. And knowing me, I was only going to be there a few days. But of course, I could not just take a carry-on. I had to check a bag. So although I was checked in on my phone, here I go in the airport with my wheelie case, my check bag, and I'm all checked in, but I need my bag drop. I need to print my bag tag. So I've got my carry-on, I've got my ID, my phone in my hand. I think I've got my glasses, because God forbid I could see a computer without my glasses. And I'm fumbling around and I'm trying to do work the little computer and scan the boarding pass and look myself up, and I'm all discombobulated and everything. Finally, I manage my way through. I print the bag tag, and I'm standing there with the bag tag kind of flailing. And I look at the gate agent lady and I say, "Can you please help me put this bag tag on my bag?" And she whips her head around at me and she says, "Ma'am, you're going to need to learn how to put the bag tag on your own bag, because pretty soon here, there's going to be nobody at the bag drop. When you come in, the first human being that you see is going to be the TSA agent, and you'll be lucky if you see that." And so I just remember thinking to myself, okay, let me calm down, because this lady's tone is completely unnecessary and uncalled for. And I know I'm exasperated, so let me breathe a minute. And I look at her and I cock my head. And when I look into her eyes, I see that her tone really has nothing to do with me. This woman is about to lose her job and lose what she knows and has been doing. And when I looked at her and I took a moment to pause, I realized it's not really about me. It's about the fact that this lady's wondering what she's about to do with her job. So I took a breath, and I still had the bag tag flailing in my hand. And I said, "So what's going to happen to you?" And I think it was JetBlue. American. I flew to Phoenix. And she said, "Well, they'll reassign us, and they'll cross train us, and they'll find a place for me. But this is where I like to work. This is the assignment I like. I like bidding adieu to the people that are going on their travels. This is the station that I like." And for just a moment there, I could see myself in her position, and here she was, and I could see the humanity in her. And my countenance changed and her countenance changed. And I said, "I feel really bad about that. Who's going to teach me how to do my bag tag?" So anyway, we made a joke on it, and, she helped me put my bag tag on there. And we were best of friends by the time I went off to security. And "Have a safe trip, Stacey." And, we smiled and we laughed. And that's the part of life that we are in so desperate need of right now. That's what society needs, is the humanity of the daily tasks of life. And although she'll get reassigned, she'll have another job, it's just going to be completely automated. When you walk into an airport now, there's going to be no one there at the backdrop. Everything is going to be self-regulated. And it's good, it's bad. Like I said before, technology is a two-edged sword, but I'm going to miss, even though she had an attitude with me, I am going to miss interacting with people when I head to the airport. Another thing that I heard in the news was Linda Evangelista, the retired supermodel, was talking about how AI is touching up these supermodels' pictures to the points where they're not even them. They're not even them. She said, we used to do little tricks back in the 60s and 70s and tie the belts real tight around our waist to make it look like we were cinched, and put the reflectors up on our eyes to make it look like we didn't have bags. And we toyed around. But this is what she did say. There was always a photographer there that if the button popped on your blouse, he'd be like, "Ho, ho, ho, wait, let's fix that button." Or if your fake eyelashes was hanging down on your cheekbone, they'd say, "Oh, stop, cut. We need to fix that." Now, there's nobody that does that. You know what they say? Just run it through. We'll touch it up later. Just run it through. We'll fix it later. We'll make it look like the button's there. We'll take we'll airbrush the eyelash off your cheek. But you know what? That's really not that model. That's not what she looked like. That's not a true capture of that moment in time. Can you make me look like a supermodel too, AI? Oh, I could walk the runway with AI. I can be 120 pounds. So let's not acquiesce to fake transcripts. Let's capture a moment in time. Okay, go ahead, Debs. What?
supermodel. There ain't no airbrushing needing to be done on
Listen,
you.
That's
because,
right.
and that's the thing. That's what the keynote speaker said at CTC. We must always remember who we are. I may not be built to fit a supermodel size, but you know what? I'm a damn good court reporter, and nobody could take that away from me. Nobody.
And
So,
that's
well,
where we to bank on these connections that you're talking about, these connections, the human interaction out in the world. What we learned at CTC is not only are those personal interactions important, but our personal interactions are critical right now in the preservation of the record. And so a message for us all, a crucial message that we learned from CTC is they're not focusing on the record necessarily when they're worrying about all of these risks and liabilities of all these other elements of AI. They're not looking at the risks to the judicial system and to the record. So again, to all of our listeners today, it's imperative that you reach out to your connections to make sure you share our personal message of how we need to be a part of this equation to protect justice for them.
that's right.
Yes. Sue?
Yeah, I agree with everything Stacey and Deb said. We can probably all tell stories about how we've seen people very fearful of what's going to happen in the future. I'm not as fearful about what's going to happen to us because I think we've studied it enough to know that their options aren't better for us. If they ever are, then we have to adapt to it. We're adapting to it now. But we still make, I remember one of the speakers, I don't know if it was the keynote, referring to stenographers being 95% accurate. I mean, it just shows that they really don't understand us or what we do. We're far more than 95% accurate. We are already the human in the loop that everyone says you have to have. We have a skill. We don't need an AI. We need to hone our real-time skills for sure. And we've been doing that for a long time. We've been working on that. And we need to be the best reporters we can be. We need all of you to go out and help get that message out that we are the human in the loop already. Why would we want to take what we are instantaneous? We don't have to have a server. We don't have to have it run through an algorithm. Our brain functions much better than an algorithm functions. So I think that there's still a very good future as a court reporter. And
Absolutely.
I don't think anytime soon we're going to be replaced. Remember that a lot of what you see is hype. And there's no question about that. The keynote, who as we said, is an AI scientist, said the same thing. The hype is crazy right now. Stacey told a quick story. I'll tell a quick one. I saw recently a video, and it was about AI being used by AAA. And it showed an old couple who were stranded on the side of the road trying to interact with the AI. And it didn't work real well. It's a funny little thing. But what was interesting were the comments at the bottom of it about how AAA built their engine. They use chatbots. A lot of the chatbots claim very high accuracy rates. And the reason they can claim that is because they're built on limited data. They're built on their phone calls. You know how when you call and they say this call may be recorded, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Okay, so they're building their engines based on those. And there's studies that show that when people interact with AI, they speak slower, they speak louder, and they speak in short phrases. So that's what those apps, the chatbots, and a lot of the engines are built on. So they're claiming an accuracy that really is not going to occur in what we do ever. So that's it for me. I think we have a bright future, but we also have to work very hard to protect it and to educate about it, because they clearly don't understand how AI intersects with what we do. Thank you. And thanks for
Well
having
said.
us, Kristen.
Very
Well,
well said.
and I'll wrap it up there. So I just want to keep in mind any of our students that may be watching as well. Just know that you have a bright future ahead of yourself. Connections matter in the freelance world and in the official world and in the captioning world as well. Having that human element there to ensure that everything is going correctly. And so things are broadcast and things are recorded on the record correctly are so vital. And I'll just wrap up with sharing why connection is important. Just in my last week in my own courtroom, I work for an amazing judge in Denton County, Texas. And of course, I like to always being the guardian of the record. If some things there's a little discussion before we go on the record, my judge is always very good about calling the case, having attorneys identify themselves for the record. That's a very important element, students and everyone out there, when you get started on the record, when you make that relationship with your judge, because it makes it great. However, if somebody forgets to swear in the interpreter, that little human over there on the record book, I believe we are going to swear in the interpreter next. And if a witness does not get sworn in, because the judge has a lot on their mind when they're starting a case, they're trying to consider the pleadings and get everything organized. And so we are there to assist them to make their job easier every step of the way. So it's more than just being the guardian of the record in my world, I share with you, where I make the record and she depends on that. And when they say, well, somebody said this and this back on June 1st of this year, she's like, one moment, let me pull up my real time.
Yeah.
So, and she goes, and if this is not, that is not what you said, this is what you said. And are you questioning? I have the best court report in the world. So I just share that, I mean, those connections matter, and having those working relationships, not only in the courtroom setting, but in the freelance sector too. So
Absolutely.
Thank you all for joining me today. Ladies, I respect you all in your experience and your assistance. And everyone, again, go out there and make every connection matter. Have a great day.
Bye.